right, so Andy McCarthy and Kayleigh McEnany join us. Andy, you've written a piece, as you always have already. We have it here.
True.
You mentioned two things that I want to just bring up to you. You say, as a matter of law, it's like these crimes never happened. And you have specific information that I don't think people have heard yet. And I want our audience to understand why the date of him pardoning his son on December 1st mattered.
Well, I think, Dana, the sentencings were scheduled for the Delaware case, I think next Thursday, the 12th, and the following Monday he was going to be sentenced on the California charges. So in the federal law, in the criminal law, this is a state thing as well, you are not a convicted felon formally until the court enters the judgment of conviction on the record. We've talked about this some in connection with what's gone on with President Trump's cases or his case in Manhattan. It's the same situation here. Hunter did not want to be a convicted felon. I think you can look at the way that he litigated these cases, and you know from some of the choices that he made that he knew all along he was getting a pardon, notwithstanding all Biden's denials. But it was important to them that it happened before he had sentences imposed on him, because now he can say he was never actually convicted of a crime.
Right.
Okay, so Kayleigh, Jared Polis is the Democratic governor out of Colorado. He sounded off. He said, I'm disappointed he put his family ahead of the country. This is a bad precedent. It could be abused by later presidents. That will sadly tarnish his reputation. Hunter brought the legal trouble he faced on himself, and one can sympathize with struggles while also acknowledging no one's above the law, not a president, not a president's son. Your take on this today, Kayleigh?
Well, Jared Polis is exactly right. Look, there's powerful language in Biden's pardon about every parent understanding a father wanting to pardon a son. I understand that. I don't understand the lying. I don't understand how the Merrick Garland DOJ raids Melania's closet and then Biden's White House pardons his son. There seems to be a huge disparity there. I think when you look back on this, when history looks back on this, you're going to see a legacy of injustice. It was not just the raid on Mar-a-Lago that happened under Garland, the prosecutions of Donald Trump. It was also the radical Catholic memo from the FBI. It was Paulette Harlow, 76-year-old. Look, I can't get her face out of my mind. She's sitting in a jail right now, 2-year sentence for being in front of an abortion clinic, standing there peacefully. Her husband's devastated, thinks she's going to die in jail, but Hunter Biden gets a pardon. A lot of people don't understand the disparity, and that legacy of injustice is going to sear into the minds of people, not just the feelings of a father to a son, which every parent can understand.
President Trump sort of knew this was coming, right? Bill Malugin asked him about this. Watch here.
You've talked about wanting to unify the country if you're elected. If you are president again, in the name of unity, would you consider pardoning Hunter Biden?
Well, I wouldn't do anything that would be overt in terms of Hunter. It's a sad situation, and I'll bet you the father probably pardons him. Let's see what happens, but he's a bad boy.
So he anticipated it would happen. But Andy, what about the fact that Biden just insisted, and through his spokesperson insisted, that no one was above the law? They said over and over again. And frankly, unfortunately for them, I don't think anybody actually believed them anyway.
Yeah, well, this goes to what Kayleigh was talking about. I think I certainly as a father could understand that you would, if you had the power to spare your son imprisonment. If it were my sons, I would have spared them prosecution in the first place, which he could have done. But I think that goes to the mendacious political calculations that went into this. As Kayleigh said, anybody could have understood if Biden had just looked America in the eye and said, look, this is my son. I know it's abusive, but I'm going to pardon him. Mm-hmm. They would have understood that a lot better than the series of lies. But the series of lies were driven by the election calendar. They wouldn't do the pardon prior to the election because they realized that the electorate would have went nuts over it. So they lied about it again and again. I think you're right that nobody really believed them. Certainly nobody who looked at the choices that Hunter and his lawyers made during these cases. They had to know they were getting a pardon. I don't think anybody
Andy,
believed it.
Yeah. If you look at the president's statement, he says two things. He says no one is brought to trial for filling out a gun form improperly. I'm paraphrasing the words there. He's also making the case that if you pay back taxes, there's no penalty. The penalty for prison comes off of that. Are those two statements true?
So if I rob a bank but I bring the money back, that's okay now. You know, I mean, it's idiotic. As far as the gun case is concerned, that was not a what they call a lie and try case, where you fill out the form but you don't get the gun because they find out that there's a problem. He actually got the gun. Those cases get brought all the time. And as for a tax violation, it's just like the bank robbery. It's a little bit of a drastic example, but I think it makes the point. Paying back the money that you owe doesn't mean that you didn't commit the crime. It's not a defense. So it's just, those are silly arguments. And in point of fact, he got cut break after break because he was Hunter Biden, because he was the president's son. This idea that he was singled out for that reason, they actually tried to make the case against him go away, which is a break that no American would get.
We were going to try to get to Kash Patel and that FBI nomination, but we're going to get to that within the show. But I do want to ask you, Kayleigh, about this. If you think about the new to Trump voters over this past month, right? One of the things that they were frustrated with is that they felt that the leaders were not in touch with them, that they didn't care about things for them. We're going to talk to somebody later who did hard time for the very same thing that Hunter is accused of doing, was accused of doing and convicted of doing, although I guess now he's not a convicted felon because it's like these things never happen. I mean, that feeling of the elites being better than the people, that carries through with this pardon.
Absolutely. I mean, the pro-life activists I mentioned, some of whom are in jail, some of whom were acquitted by a jury like Mark Houck, there's a huge disparity. Those individuals you speak of, when they read this and see selective and unfairly prosecuted, no, that was Trump with the New York case. New York Times reviewed every case they could find and could not find a case where a federal election was brought under New York state election law. That language applied to Trump. Congress instigated them, miscarriage of justice singled out. I just remind everyone, on August 11th, 2023, it was Merrick Garland that appointed Special Prosecutor David Weiss. So this is such a selective prosecution. It was your DOJ that appointed the special counsel.
Thanks to both of you. Andy McCarthy, thank you. Kayleigh McEnany, good stuff this morning. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.